Weaver, Graves,
Here.
Shelby.
Here.
Agenda item number 2 is discuss and possibly approve the minutes of January 27th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Sounds like none. Agenda item number 3, discuss and possible action regarding the Open Tennis Tournament to be held May 29th through the 31st, 2020, presented by Jeremy Mullen.
That's me.
Hey, Jeremy.
How you doing? I'm actually here on behalf of my son Blake. He has hosted 2 tennis tournaments in the past, raised money for prior schools, notably the tennis team, and he's requested to do a 3rd tournament. So this was pretty much a handoff from the Websters from the tournament that they did. They had discontinued it, and he talked with Bob and pretty much picked up the torch and ran with it. And he's spoken with Frank on the parks and.
Al,
Behind you.
he's behind you,
Oh, yep,
sporting the OU gear.
yeah, yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, actually, it's been a long while. And I think he spoke with you also, Mayor, about doing it. I mean, I think he has his ducks in a row for a college kid, a lot better than I would. But he just asked me to be here to check with you guys, make sure that it was all okay. I think that's about it. He sent me some notes. Let me see if there's anything I'm missing. You have the dates, right? The 29th, 30th, and 31st? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all he sent me.
he's done this a couple of years. We've never had any complaints come back to us that I remember. I think he does a pretty good job. Frank,
Yeah.
Frank, in the past, everything went pretty smooth for you?
Yeah, we always work together real good,
Yeah.
moving forward with the keys and whatever we need.
Yeah.
I think all we've ever really,
Turnout last time, like,
Yeah, it was in a heat wave as well.
Oh, yeah, I knew there was
but yeah.
one of them I know was in a big heat wave.
Yeah, we had a big turnout and people about to faint, and so he's moved it earlier in the season this time because people of my shape don't do well. You know, Rachel will probably be fine. You know, but she can run 50 miles at a time, so that's a little
Hopefully this won't flood it out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But no, I think if you guys are okay with it, it'd be awesome because like I said, the money's going back into the school, which I think's phenomenal.
Any idea how much you've done in the past?
I want to say between the 2 tournaments of last year, I think it raised, and don't hold me to this, but I'm guessing a couple $1,000s because the first one was big.
Yeah.
The first one, he actually got a lot more participation than he anticipated. Like had to go and buy extra shirts and really kind of restock about a week before because the turnout ended up being much larger than he expected. I want to say there was 60 or 70 people there, and it's one of the largest ones in quite some time.
Awesome.
In many years, yeah, because we've been playing in the tournament for 5 or 6 years, and the work that he put in, he got Muskogee High School to come in, and they brought some players, and the college where he's playing tennis, they brought players up, and I mean it was a heck of a deal. And the one he did later was smaller, and that was kind of by design. He kind of tamed it down a little bit, but he's looking to turn this one up again, and earlier. So I want to say it's the weekend after Memorial Day because he didn't want to get into a conflict with everything that was already going on between Memorial Weekend, Rocklahoma, and all the other stuff. So I anticipate it to be pretty good, but I know on behalf of our company from Ugly John's, we'll donate money that will, from sponsorship side, that will help support it, and that's an area where I can see him really pumping it up. The one area that he was missing, I felt last year, was getting more sponsors, but he's out in front of it this year, and so I anticipate a few $1,000s safely.
Good.
Thanks, Jeremy. Can we?
I think all we ever do is just encourage him to communicate with Frank on all the specifics. And,
Yeah.
we have no issues here. We're happy to see him doing it.
Awesome.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds good.
Thanks.
Tell them we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Agenda item number 4 is the park report. Superintendent Frank Powell. Frank?
Don't really have too much to report. I think we've kind of got the equipment ready to go, and now we've brought some tables in, getting those cleaned up, repainted, getting ready for spring, and actually got the sprayer out today, getting ready to start doing some spraying already. Other than that, just don't really have too much to go on about. The only, I guess, question I got, and it wasn't really an agenda item, just kind of with, by hearing the report, last month on the pool. Okay, so, that's coming up too. So I guess my question is, we did budget for a couple of things this year at the pool. So my question is, how far do you want me to go on the pool? Minimum, just keep it running? Because some of the stuff's gonna be cosmetic but expensive, like painting. So
That's
my
our-
question to you is,
It's our next agenda discussion, right after you, is to figure all that out.
well,
I think this is,
yeah, my stuff's not on that. That's just kind of like with the management part. Mine's,
Well, who's managing the pool?
Right.
well,
That's the next discussion.
mine's on the repair part.
Yeah.
Frank, I think from a standpoint of, you talk about,
Are we gonna open it?
yeah, I think our going-in assumption at this point is, let's assume it's going to be opened
Mhm.
until you hear otherwise.
That's-
Nobody
yeah.
said no, right?
Well, I mean, I was assuming that. I'm just wanting to know how far to go.
Well, then I think what we're talking about, given the situation that we're in about the pool, and there's talks about another pool or something, to me, it seems like it might make sense this year to do anything from a safety standpoint. We sure wouldn't want to put the city in any position where we were, not doing the things that we need to do to make it safe. But the cosmetic things, I think, would be something that we might choose, unless it's maintenance to maintain the viability of the asset. But if it's just truly cosmetic,
It's like to paint the pool bottom. This would be the year for that. Now, we'll still do our normal maintenance like caulking and sealing, but, painting, you're talking a couple $1,000.
and how bad is it? Is that a safety issue?
It's not safety, no.
Okay.
And it don't affect chemicals or anything. But I said, we'll still do any kind of, look for leaks and plug, caulking and stuff like that. And then a lot of times we'll kind of even repaint or seal even some of the seams that we've done, but, I was kind of just fun, because it was on the agenda, or not, well, the agenda, but on my list this year in budget to do it, and now it's kind of, just kind of wondering how far to, I mean, I kind of know what you're saying, do what needs to be done. I'm just talking about that extra little bit, do we just,
Well, even if they say, yeah, if the drawing comes back and everything looks all right, I can't imagine that happening anytime next couple of years.
that's, yeah, I'm picturing it's not
So
gonna
it's,
happen
so
soon.
it's, so what all is on your stuff to be done? Paint
The
the
two
bottom?
big things would be to repaint the pool, I guess it's a shell,
Mhm.
and the lift station out to the west was to redo the box. And I had gotten quotes or budget numbers from electricians, previous for and that's going about $6,000. So there's about eight to 10,000 I could spend on the pool easily without even doing a whole lot.
Well, do you have time? Can you put that on the agenda for next meeting?
I mean, you want me to go ahead and get bids or quotes and bring them forward?
That might be a good idea. It's just so it's an informed decision, whatever we make. And give us some idea of why we would choose to do it, why it makes sense to do it now. Does it cost us anything to delay it a year, or is it gonna be more expensive next year than it is this year? Is it deteriorating at a point that,
Painting wise, it won't cost, I don't think, any more next year than what it would this year. Like I said, I'm still gonna do the caulking and sealing, and I can spend up to $1,000 easy just doing caulk and sealing the seams and stuff. But, like I said, I probably won't be doing anything within the next month, but right after that, we'll probably be getting started on some stuff.
Well, why don't you, what I'm hearing, I think there was some good comments here about, looking at this and saying, you know, even if we said we were gonna build a new pool, it's not gonna happen by
Right.
summer or probably even next year, that'd be, and so, but these discretionary expenses are not truly maintenance. Well, I guess they are maintenance in a sense, but it's not something that has to be done
Right.
this month or the
The
next few months.
painting's out of repair and maintenance, the other part was a capital outlay item.
Okay,
And like I said, I'd get bids on those anyway if I was to go forward with it, so I'll go ahead and do that. And then it's up to you to either refuse them or if you wanna choose to fix them.
so we're gonna summarize this, cause I know you're probably looking for some guidance, is planning on opening the pool, like we have every year. Going to do all those things that we need to do to meet safety requirements and necessary maintenance. And that's where we're at right now, going in position would be is not do those cosmetic repairs, but bring those back to the board and let's put them before the full board and have some information on cost and benefits and,
The lift station wasn't as much cosmetic, but more of a code upgrade, if I understood you
It
right.
was-
That's an
We didn't
electrical
have
panel?
any issues this past year, but the year before was one where the pump, it wasn't so much the pump was, going out, but we was having issues in that box of like electrical issues, and like use one leg of the 220 going to the pump, and it would cause the pump to burn up. But that pumps year round, you know, not just during pool season. You know, even last January, and every time you send that pump off, you're talking at least $1,500. And so the last time was last January, and because you always got the rainwater from the pool or whatever going into that lift station. And then if it's not working, then it floods out the pump room, because that's where it backs up, you know, in that pipe. But, so
That would be a necessity.
that was something, I got, you know, numbers from one of the electrical guys, they couldn't just rebuy a box, it's almost gonna have to rebuild it. You know, almost the components in it instead of just buying new. And,
When you say
So it
box,
was-
you're referring to an electrical panel, is that right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's got all these little relays and switches and all that, but,
So it's just outdated?
and then plus, they were gonna add the components, see, right now, nothing safety related, but if power went out the pole, you didn't have that extra shut off to work on, I mean, you actually either had to shut it all off, the power, to work on it, you didn't have the whole. extra
if that wasn't working, are you saying we wouldn't be able to use the pool?
No, it has nothing to do with the pool, but like when you drain the water, back flush, that's where it all goes, and it pumps it out of that lift station into the sanitation.
So it doesn't have anything to do
But
with the
if it
day-to-day
fills up and the
operation?
pump's not working, and it fills up in that lift station, it backflows through the pipe into the pump room, the floor pump room, and
It's a good example of why Frank was bringing it to us, I think, because it's not really general maintenance, like painting and caulking. It's also not really cosmetic. It's somewhere in between. It's kind of a repair
Yeah.
to bring us
We
up a
had
little
to-
bit, but how urgent and critical is it?
Last January, when we had an issue, and that guy did do something to, I was actually gone when it happened on vacation. And we never had any more issues this year with the pump, but like I said, it's something that can happen year round, not just during pool season. But,
But why don't you
Yeah.
put that as part of the write-up when you come next month with these agenda items?
okay.
It's a good example of us having to think long-term first so we can decide on the short-term. Is it worth dropping $8,000 in this box if we're gonna build a new pool in 2 years or not? You know?
That's kinda,
Yeah.
Okay,
But if we're gonna keep that pool up and running, then yeah, that needs to be done, so why not go ahead and do it? Yeah.
and other than that, like I said, unless y'all got any questions, I don't really have too much to.
On the parks, are you gonna, does that include the cemetery, or is that the next?
Yeah, cemetery, it's kinda just been doing, like, just whatever we can in between the rains. Like tomorrow, we're tearing down the building behind the police station. we're the go-to department when everybody else needs something done. We do a lot of odd jobs.
So the fence that runs out there, the new fence, they just run out there and it stops, is that as far as that fence gonna go?
At the fence line,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And it's the actual tree line is not, it's a few feet past the property line.
I saw that.
And reason we left it short a little bit was like maybe to put a gate in, like if we start maintaining mowing it, that way we can get the mower. We left it just wide enough to get a mower.
Have you had any issues right there since that's happened?
Not since,
We
that's why
haven't
we
either.
don't ask you
It-
if you.
None. It's like, it turned the spigot off right there.
Yeah, so, expensive little fix, but in the long run, it'll be worth it anyway.
I think it looks nice through there. That was one of the things, I did hear somebody comment, say how much it looks nice, and their question to me was, how much further is that fence gonna go out there? And I said,
Now, that'd be the end of it right there.
it looks good.
The new splash pad features, you know, they're ordered. So,
That'd be exciting to see them.
yeah.
Saw that the city approved them pretty good, and city council even thanked the Cherokees for their help.
Frank, a cemetery question. I know it's come up time to time about buying additional lands or opening up.
We're actually working on, you've asked, I didn't mean to cut in.
Yeah.
You've actually asked like about how many estimated empty, we're actually working on that. We've gotten started on that. And like I said, that's almost one of those physically count, and we're working on that and get to you. Like I said, the numbers this past year were I guess it's a good thing. Were the lowest amount of funerals we'd ever had out there. So at that rate, you know, we may be going a little bit longer without having to open up some new sections. But
Is that something you think you'll have next month or just whenever you can get around to it? It's nothing that's that pressing, but,
yeah, we're just working on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
any other questions for Frank? Thanks. Agenda item number 5, discussion of pool operations for 2020. Rachel, did you have, I don't know who put this on, or this is the time of year,
This
okay.
is an automatic thing this time of year. Yeah.
Okay,
Probably table it.
Well, there's only so much we can table because we're running out of time.
tell me what our, wait,
I was just gonna say, we've gotta, kind of assess that for 3 years, we've managed to keep the pool running based on basically the labor loan, you could call it, I guess, from the rec center. They've been gracious enough to help us out, but we've also been told we've gotta take more of a lead on that moving forward, and that option is not there for this year. So our discussion as a park board has to be, do we wanna pursue a manager to help make this a reality again? Or based on our current situation and then the inspection, do we take another approach? And I guess that's what we gotta discuss and figure out. 'Cause we can't table it much longer. If we're gonna try to move forward and open, we need to more or less agree on, okay, we've gotta go find a manager and get that publicized so that we can start trying to attract candidates for that.
well, I think
If
what,
that's gonna happen, who's gonna qualify the manager, who's gonna agree on them, those sorts of things, those sorts of details.
well, I think our service delivery model in the past has been, before Rachel got involved in the rec center, was Frank had that, and Frank worked with the board and the, Express, is that who we're still using, Express?
Yeah, at that time it was,
People in-
People Link, yeah, what's it?
Okay,
Yeah, so it's with Express now. Because right before all that took place, you all had done some requirements on a manager.
Yeah.
If you remember right, well, they actually had to be certified and stuff, so we need to make sure whatever requirements you all are wanting, that the temp service is aware of.
so, we've got a service delivery model we understand now, we've used in the past. Are we going in with the assumption this year that Rachel and the rec center is not
They're not.
available and not interested in, that's the going in position,
That is what we've been told, yes.
okay,
So that's where our expectation should be.
all right. So going in with that, then we need to get this ramped up the way we used to do it.
If I could ask real quickly, I don't mean to cut you off, just to clarify, was it a zero involvement from the rec center, or was there insistence that it be drastically reduced? Can anybody clarify that for us? I know we still need them to help us certify lifeguards, some things like that, just to clarify so we are thinking clearly moving forward. Does anybody know what that specifically was? Is the rec center saying we're washing our hands of it, not doing anything, or are they saying, maybe we're willing to help you, but we can't be helping you like we have been in the past. You've got to take about 80% of this off of her plate. Anybody clarify that for us?
I don't want to speak for the rec center, or for Rachel, or for their board, but they requested that Rachel not be given the responsibility, or asked to be given the responsibility of managing the rec center. As far as the lifeguards and doing whatever certification we would need to do for that, perhaps rec center would be able to assist us with that. But if we would like for them to do that, we need to request it. We don't need to make the assumption.
Right.
Right.
Just want to clarify, so.
Okay. So Frank, I think, and this is just a discussion item, we don't have any action items here, but do you see any problems with going back to that previous model? Have you got any issues or concerns other than getting that thing put in place and getting things lined out?
There's always a little bit, because it's kind of one of those odd jobs where just a couple months out of the year, getting someone who's willing to do it.
Well, maybe a question then, this is part of my being direct. Is this something you think you can do?
Well, I mean, it's not any different than what we've done for you.
Yeah,
It's, because for the most part, before the temp services, we posted and do everything, set the requirements. And then actually, just like any temp job, the temps would actually bring them in and maybe interview them, and then when they got down to one or two, then they maybe would send them to me. And then we would kind of all work together which one.
I think what I'm asking here is, do you feel like you know what to do and you got the time to do it and you can make it happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just main thing I need to know is what kind of requirements, though, that you did request from the manager.
Yeah. And we've got a swimming pool subcommittee, which I think 2 of the 3 are not here tonight. Is that right? Who's on the committee? Oh, is it 2 of you?
That's two
And
and
Laura.
Ms. Seaver.
And Lori, okay. So they definitely need to be involved in it. And working with you, and so between now and next meeting, I think maybe see how much traction you can get and things you can get done to get this lined out, so we'll be ready to go and,
Yeah, because we'll have to post it. I learned, even like taking applications, you can't rely on the temp. I went several weeks, didn't get anything. We posted it, and within 2 hours, I had like 10 people calling, so, yeah. But,
And I know,
got 2 or 3 people in mind that I'm gonna try to get with, just to, see if they'd be interested. Because it's just one of those jobs where, about every other year, it's always been kind of, honestly, like a teacher, because it's,
it feels like in the 6 or 7 years that I've been on the park board, more than once, there's been almost a critical or a crisis around, can we get enough lifeguards in time? We have to start the advertising early. It takes a certain amount of time to certify.
I think
The
that's
culture of the
where
labor force is shifting slowly, and it's just getting harder to find lifeguards.
it should go,
Yeah,
I
but-
hope, easier this year, because that was one of the issues we had with the previous company was, I think a lot of it was communication, wasn't it? On getting guards trained at the rec center, like when they scheduled and they didn't contact the
Do you have
thing,
any,
and all of a
do
sudden.
you have any classes scheduled for lifeguard training?
Not at this time.
So, but I'm,
Are you planning to at all?
Probably need to.
it's, it's the last time the training was actually almost through the center because they were doing lifeguard training and the temp service. I almost honestly didn't really have anything to do with the guards, you know.
Well, you know what would really be nice, I think if I was in your position, given that, you know, you've got other things you're doing on a day-to-day basis, is maybe put together a task list, things that have to get done, assign some ownership to them, who owns it, what kind of deadline we need. And let's see if you got a viable plan put together that we can get all this done by typically Memorial Day. And if we can get that put together and mark progress against it, we'll see if we run into, you know, that should give us an indication of, are we making good time, are we gonna get there, and if not, what we need to do to get back on plan. Because I recognize it's been 3 years and you haven't been working with the temp agencies on this, and there's issues. I would also think it'd be a good idea for Rachel to meet with the subcommittee, and maybe even Frank included.
Yeah, I'll be getting with Rachel.
Yeah. Sit down and talk about kind of lessons learned the last 3 years. What did they learn that's worked well or what hasn't worked? And I know they've been able to do some things that seem like concessions is one that comes to
Yeah.
mind. So looking at things like that.
So I guess, like, on the same item, like, this hours and pricing, we just leave them the
I think
same?
I'd leave it all the same.
We could probably discuss all that on the subcommittee meeting pretty
Yeah, I
quickly.
think that'd be a
All the
good-
That's what I
details.
was thinking.
And have Rachel give you an idea if there's some changes that she's doing, maybe.
Yeah, and then on a little bit of a broader scope, if I could ask, we've got the report of the inspection. I don't know if everybody took a look at it or not. But my takeaway from it, and I'll just throw this out to see if you guys agree or not. One, he more or less said the pool is safe to operate in the short term. He said in the long term, there were a number of issues he highly recommended, either upgrading, repairing, redoing to bring it up to current code compliance. And you added them all up, they're pretty expensive. Did anybody have any thoughts on the long-term viability, or do we have a long-term plan?
Well, he
I
was
know
supposed
that
to-
was well
Have we
beyond
heard
what's in
from
our
him?
annual park board
I've
budget,
mailed
you
him
know.
pictures and we've done a Google
You know, because he
thing.
asked for a 30-day thing where he'd bring back a plan to us.
It was
but-
just last week that he asked for some like pictures and
Oh, okay.
stuff, but,
He said he was
he's
gonna
looking
make
at
a
the
plan
one
back
to,
us.
like, if we do it in the park.
A little more.
He had some rough estimates, but I guess there was obviously a lot more legwork to be done to get firmer numbers.
Yeah,
That's what he was gonna do.
the big deal was, from my takeaway, it was how much water we were losing a day and how much it is.
And some of that goes back to this pipe I was talking about, like in his report, you know, if you wanna say leaking per se, you know, it's not like it's leaking in a hole in the pool, it's this pipe. The valve, we even replaced this valve in 500,000 gallons, it won't hold it, but it was like that before I was, you know.
Yeah,
And it just let so much water bypass it, so 24/7, you've got, I always called it like a 3-finger string. You know, now, and that water always, you know,
what's 70 years old, I mean,
well, like I said, this isn't leaking, this is bypassing, this is something that was in the plumbing. And we just don't know how, that's what I was saying in that report, part of it, the leaking term was kinda broad on, this isn't per se a leak
It's
that
not
you
that-
can
yeah,
go
it's
plug
It's
or
it's not that the
It's
shell's
with the-
cracked, it's
it's
a
with
plumbing
the-
issue.
Yeah.
plumbing, it's the way it was plumbed, and the little valve they have to hold that water back, but it's down below we don't know how it is, it's below in the pump room, the floor, the concrete floor. And you got the floor drain and the pump drains all tied in together. And so that's why I was saying you know, it's got one of those valves, you crank it like 30 times to close it and cinch it, but we've replaced it. I mean, it's like 8 foot deep in the ground. We've replaced it and everything, brand new one, and it won't hold the water all back. And so this pipe goes out into the lift station. So a few years ago, it's like a 4-inch pipe. So I bought a big old brass valve we put on the end of it. I shut it off. We're always like, yeah, that'll work, man. We just saved a lot of, money, blah, blah, blah. come back 2 hours later to check the pool and open the pump room, and it's like this deep of water. And that's where I figured out when you stop it there, it just, or if it gets the water, it just comes right back up that pipe and it floods the pump room. So we had to take it back off. And so we don't, other than that, I explained that to, Don and Mr. Paddock. It's just with the plumbing, we don't know how to fix that,
Okay, so he didn't have a recommendation to fix
No,
the issue?
you'd be tearing out the bottom of,
Other than a
not the
complete-
pool, but in the pump room, the concrete.
Yeah, and my understanding, I guess, do they design them a little differently now? Is there a different setup that they use?
Well, yeah, it's been redone once, the pump, all new filters, the pump, all that's been redone once, and so I don't know if they done it then, or if it was part of the original.
Yeah, I just thought maybe, they designed them one way 60 years ago, and then that was probably a common issue with them. Oh, these
Yeah.
pools leak a 3-finger
Yeah.
stream of water 24/7. See if we can come up with a better design. That's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is
so,
his recommendation gonna be expensive because he says there's another way to do it now?
Yeah,
Um,
whole different,
Whole
new
different
pools
setup
are
that'll
all
stop that.
totally different.
But it's how you drain the pool. It's the line that drains the pool when you wanna
Yeah, this
drain
is
it.
where you drain the pool.
And I know somebody started moving the pump, moving the valve, leaving the valve
It's
open
just-
and putting
Before they
another
put that
valve.
lift station in, you drain the pool just to the creek. And so EPA, or I don't know who, came in and said, you gotta have this lift station, because it used to just go to the creek. But according to his report, even now, it's illegal or something going into the sanitation side. I don't know what they do then, where's it gonna go then, but, so, yeah, it's just, when you drain it, back flush it, that, like I said, in the wintertime, like now, we gotta make sure that drain's open, because when it rains, if not, the pool would fill up. So that's how, but it also involves the pump, like the pump room, like where my filters and that pump is, that drain goes into the same line, that's what's,
All right, well, I think that's something you might wanna, as you're putting together a list of things that need to be addressed, that might be one of them to add to that list.
well, there's not much you can do with that. Like I said, that, I would've fixed it 20 years ago if I could. So I thought I fixed it once and then
I'm guessing that's one of the expensive items Paddock talked about, maybe. in the
yeah,
report.
that's
But
one of
the-
those.
And redo
As
it.
we start thinking long-term, we need to be prepared one way or the other.
Not
start
especially
making some
these
long-term
deep as
decisions.
It's just water loss,
Yeah.
It's, yeah, bad 24/7, so that's a lot of water,
Yeah, you said 21,000 gallons a day, I think is what it said.
yeah.
Mayor, could I ask, have there been any discussions since that with the council about a long-term thought? Are they receptive to the idea of addressing some of these issues, or? Because we obviously in our park board budget don't have anything, we're near what those numbers were.
Council's receptive to visiting about whatever can be remedies. Right now, we're waiting on Mr. Paddock to get back with us on his plan. It's important that we have the pool up and running this season, and planning on doing whatever we need to do to run the pool this season. So the answer, I think you asked me 2 yes/no questions. The answer to the first one was no, and the answer to the second one is yes.
Hasn't been a lot of discussion, but they seem receptive and committed to trying to keep things moving.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, looking at it from those, Mr. Paddock, whenever he was here, the biggest takeaway I got from it was, you're gonna spend the same amount of money repairing it, or more money to repair it than you would putting a new one in.
Yeah.
With all the
Just some-
different
We
regulation
kinda got,
changes.
I know more an idea of what we thought we wanted, and he was gonna come back with a plan more tailored to what we're wanting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so in terms of a bigger picture, we don't have a safety liability issue the city needs to worry about in the short term. Probably the more
Just-
critical of the short-term issues was that we're not technically ADA compliant over there.
Yeah, that was
There's
that,
no wheelchair lift station to help a disabled person in, that sort of thing.
there was a couple.
Bathhouse.
Bathhouses were in bad shape.
Right, no zero entry to the pool for,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was some of the deals.
And those are some expensive corrections.
Yeah,
Well, is he a pool builder?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of a pool expert all the way around, I suppose.
Hmm.
My take on it.
Yeah,
Well, as Warren Buffett said,
He is not a pool builder, he's a pool designer.
designer,
He's a pool
Okay.
designer, architectural design pools, and, he's in Oklahoma City, but he does them all over the country. And that is a company that's been at it probably the longest of anybody else in the country. And we're lucky to have him close by.
good. Where's he out of, Tulsa?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City?
But where was the one, Winfield,
Kansas.
no, wait, what?
No, oh, Iowa.
Iowa, yeah,
They did the Grove Pool.
and the
stuff.
Grove Pool, and the Broken Arrow Pool.
Okay,
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
You guys are talking about $8,000 or $10,000 of expenses to get the pool up to snuff and doing the things that need to be done. Is it possible to do a fundraiser? Is there a tax benefit side to someone who steps in and donates money to the city to be earmarked for the pool to get things right and going?
Fundraiser, yeah, it can be done, it's just finding people.
Can I write down
that
your
can
name,
Find the
please?
time to do it.
So the city is a not-for-profit organization, and any donations that come into a not-for-profit organization would be tax deductible contribution. So that answer, I think that answer to you is yes. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask that because that's a possibility and I don't mind helping with that.
Why didn't you buy a banner last year, the year before?
What?
So why didn't you buy a banner?
Why not buy a banner?
Yeah.
I don't recall being asked. Last time I got asked to buy a banner to support the high school, I did. People don't ask me anymore. I mean, I'm dead serious. It's not about being stingy with money, but I literally don't get asked for anything. I'm probably gonna quickly regret this. But, you know, and it's not just me. It's, I won't burn your phone, I promise. But it's not just me, it's the people in the community, right? You know, that you could get, especially from that angle. And just, and it's not a major donation, and I don't mean to make it sound like nothing, but you can go around a business and ask for $500 on, you know, on donations, and I mean, I have a handful of people right now, it's just like with my son's tennis tournament. I picked up the phone and called a few friends and raised a few $1,000s for him, and it was a benefit for them, right? I mean, they're doing me a favor, but I don't mind hitting them up a couple times a year for that. And some of these businesses, we spend money with them, so I really don't mind hitting them up for it. So, kind of pay the piper, you know? It's the give back, but if that's something, because the pool, I've never swam in the pool, and I probably never will. But I think it's a good thing for the community to have, because it puts kids in a better place than a possible alternative. So, you know, I'm listening to this discussion, you guys aren't looking for $100 grand. You know, it's not an over-the-top number. I think if you put the right people in place to go out and fetch the right money and tie to the right people and pitch it the right way, I think that money can be gathered up in a hurry. And you like the support, I thought I heard you guys say something about, I think I heard you say, Frank, about teachers or school members have managed the pool in the past. I would personally sure run down that rabbit hole a lot faster because it ties really well into their schedule to begin with. It's added income for them, and we've hired temp service employees. I understand the cost of that. They're not cheap because they're making $10 or $12 an hour, but you're paying 20 because the temp service is gonna get their cut. So, I mean, I think if you went out and said, hey, we'll pay 15, you know, you go into the school system, and not to mention you find the right teacher or coach, it's all one and the same, but you find the right person there, they should have a handful of kids that they may be able to draw over, you know, that like them and follow them. And
That's exactly the model that works.
yeah, I would think that would be the most beneficial for the city's budget and for the community. You know, you're doing something inside the community. I'm not trying to rock the boat here by any
No, Jeremy, you're right, and it's happened many times over the years. And the challenge is finding people that have the passion around the particular asset. So in the case of all of our ball fields in Pryor, have been built by the parents.
Yeah.
The girls' country, the boys were built by the parents. I mean, it's just the Websters, you talk about tennis, have taken that, the Green Leaf, or what is it? Is it the Leaf?
Leaf collectors.
Leaf Collectors Group, AKA the Websters and the Prathers and them, who were all tennis players, took that under the wing. And so that's the challenge, is finding somebody that's, Rotary Club has done Centennial Park. So a lot of that goes on. I would say the challenge is the first couple of times it's fun, there's some enthusiasm. The third or fourth time it starts becoming a job, you know? And it's one of those things that after you do it a while, it becomes real work. And so you run into, you don't want to burn somebody out. But if you've got some particular enthusiasm around this one, we can sure talk to you about how to approach that. And what we found.
once a year, so it's easy.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, I have my cell phone number, so maybe
Okay.
not.
Well, we can talk to you about some things that might be helpful in fundraising and trying to help, you know, cover some of the expenses, or just some ideas about how to improve the quality of life around that pool. So we'll sure take you up on it.
Okay. And call me with the banner.
Okay, golf course report. Dennis?
Good evening. We've had a lot going on lately. Even though it's winter time, it's a busy time of the year for myself and the maintenance crew. So one of the first things I talk about is the golf course finances. You know, the first 6 months we had is really rough. You know, with all the rains, it's, you know, very rough. So we've got some challenges to really get over that. I have some ideas. I know there's a lot of different things that we can do. But we're gonna have to come up with something. So I'd like to for sure get the golf course subcommittee together and get a date, get a plan together, and try to have something maybe hopefully by the next meeting to present. So that whether if we raise rates, because our rates change in May, if we want to raise rates, or, you know, I do want to change our corporate membership. There's some things I think we can do there. So we need to tackle that problem before it gets too much ahead of us. The good part is January and February, believe it or not, we're ahead. So the weather's been good enough on weekends. We've had people out playing. You know, it's a small amount, but we'll probably finish, you know, January and February $2,000 or $3,000 ahead of last year. So, but that's a good sign because people are coming out and playing, and so. Any questions on any of that right now?
The thing I can say is I've told a number of people over the last several months that I can't remember a 12-month period living my whole life in Oklahoma that was as wet as the last 12 months have been. There hasn't been a single dry month.
No.
So I'm sure you're dealing with water, and then more, when you get that done, more water comes, and then when you get through that, some more water comes. It's just been nonstop.
It's nonstop. I talked to a guy that, yesterday, and I think he's from Tahlequah. He said that they've measured, or they're already 6 inches above average for the first 2 months in this year.
Just in 2 months.
Yeah.
So you're
You know,
running
We normally don't get
3
that
inches of
much
water a month
Yeah.
over
So,
average, so
which
you're very much at the mercy of that. There's not a whole lot you can do.
Absolutely. And where it hurts our revenue, from looking back at all the numbers, the green fees are still good, almost dead equal with last year, but the cart rental, the people just won't come out and rent the carts because they still have to walk. It's just so wet. I've talked to several golf courses, they say they just can't get off the cart pass, you know, it's just too wet to do that. I mean, unfortunately, people won't play in this day and time if they have to walk. Very few do, anyway, so.
Dennis, talking about the financial part of it, does it make sense I don't know that we've ever done this, to start preparing a forecast. And what I mean by that is different, you know, with budget, we sit down once a year. But forecast, we forecast our revenues and expenses for the remainder of the year. And the reason that I'm thinking about that is, if you think there's gonna be a cash flow deficit, the sooner we can get in front of that
Right.
and let people know, I think the better it'll be for all of us to understand, okay, it looks like we're gonna be 50,000 short or 20,000 short or whatever it might be, and know that. So just, if you can project out on your operating budget, against your operating budget, where you think we're gonna be through the end of the year.
I do that. I didn't bring
Okay.
those numbers with me, but I do project those numbers, and I know we are way behind, and it's easily somewhere around $50,000.
Is that about where it's at right now? You think we're gonna end up about 50,000 short?
Very well could be.
Now, does that include capital, replacing of assets?
No, that's,
Things like that.
that's with that set aside. the
That's just the operating budget?
Right, that's just operating budget, our operating expenses versus our revenue.
And so from a capital standpoint, do you anticipate there's also gonna be some capital needs between now and the end of the year that we don't have budgeted?
There's
Or-
one, and it depends on how we handle that, and that's the only thing capital needs that's not budgeted, that I guess has not been paid for, is the repairing that number 8 green.
Okay,
All the new capital, the city has stepped up and provided that capital for us. I do think we're gonna get some money back from FEMA. You know, we had to spend a lot of extra money, because of the flood, just labor cleaning up, all the man hours that we put in, putting the pump station back together, the control panel, all the irrigation. We spent a lot of man hours doing that ourselves, but there's a chance we're gonna get some of that back from FEMA. But unfortunately, it won't be before the end of the year, before the end of our budget year, I don't think.
No, it'll be,
So-
it'll be on into the new budget year.
Right, and we don't know how much that'll be. I can tell you from my workings with Johnny Jansen and Mike Dunham, those guys have been terrific on helping us get everything we can get out of this FEMA deal. They've come out there numerous times, so they've been very pleasant to work with, and they're really trying to do everything they can do to help our golf course along with the city departments, but they're really trying to help us on that. So they say we're gonna get some, you know, until you get it from the government, you don't know really what it is and how much it's gonna be, so. But still, we had to clean up the golf course, we had to do all, you know, put in all the new pumps, motors, and controls, and so, there was a lot of labor that we had to spend, plus we had a terrible year, so there was no way to do that. So those are the challenges that we have to overcome, and, you know, I know there's some ways that we might be able to overcome it, you know, or if we can just get close, maybe, you know, and I say close, maybe within 20,000 might be a really good year, so. Again, we don't know what the spring holds. It's the worst thing about our business, we do not know what the spring holds. If we have a real good spring, we can make up some money. How much, I, you know, don't know yet. I wouldn't think we'd make up all that, but if we could make it up within 25,000, I'd be happy. I think
So much-
we'd be doing all we could do.
So much hinges on kind of mid-April to mid-June, doesn't it?
Yes,
That
our
little 8-week span can
Yeah.
make or break your year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
April, May, and June are our busiest months, and if the weather is good, we can do really good. And, you know, I see a lot of good signs, new people coming out from the industrial park, I know that's where they're coming from, so that clientele, so a lot of good things, you know, are happening when the weather's good. We're just so weather-based, and we're in the hole to start with, so.
I guess what this boils down to me, and maybe the mayor can answer this question, is we've got, this is the first year probably as a golf course we're gonna be, we're
Upside down.
upside down, good way to say it. We've never had that in the past. So, and we got a new mayor, it's his first year going through this. What are the implications of if we get to the end of the year and we find out, and we'll know before then, but that's the reason we would forecast, that we find out we're upside down, and the city's gonna have to kick in money to get us right side up. And it seems to me that the earlier that we know that, the better off. And I don't know if there's gonna be issues about moving money around, or if there's gonna be issues about, can we only spend percentage of what we make? Or just, do you have any constraints on you as far as what you can do to pay these bills for unexpected expenses where we didn't meet the budget?
You're right, we haven't really seen this before, the perfect storm of, because Dennis always did a good job of maintaining reserve funds, because we knew there were gonna be good years and bad years, he was always able to float that, but the perfect storm of floods, minimal revenue, because the course was unplayable for a long stretch we'd never seen, on top of damage, flood that actually did a lot of damage, on top of a whole bunch of equipment wore out, it's just done for all at about the same time. It's just like the perfect storm of everything, where there's not enough left in the reserve to pick up all of that.
Right.
Is that
Yeah.
kind of, just to elaborate a little?
And I think, not only for the mayor, but for the council. I mean, for them to be, to understand, hey, this may be where we're at. And I know in the past, I think what we've done, what I think's been done, is, as I remember, is you start ratcheting down expenses
Yeah,
to try to stay within the revenue stream. But do you have,
He's stripped to the bare bone now.
yeah,
exactly,
Yeah, there's nothing left to cut.
So our golf course manager's done an extraordinary job
He has, yeah.
with what he has had to work with.
Thank you.
yeah.
And as far as the budget goes, he handles his budget appropriately. He doesn't overspend his budget. If there's something there that, so what he's talking about is he's talking about being upside down. So he's not used to this loss either.
Right.
He's not used to this either. But are we overspending budget line items? No,
I don't think anybody's,
no,
nobody's just
Yeah.
thinking about that.
yeah.
We're thinking about,
I think Chris is being proactive to say, hey, let's look 4 months down the road, so we're not.
So
Prices
projecting those
react.
expenses are important, and that's what he's,
two things can get you upside down. You got a revenue line, you got an expense line.
Mhm.
As long as that revenue stays above expenses, you're okay.
right now. It's
But
not
the
that.
minute if the revenue line starts declining faster than the expense line, that expense line gets upside down, and then that's when you have to find money somewhere.
Right.
And all I'm asking is not whether you're doing a good job managing the course. It's that you can't control the revenues to a large extent. The weather drives that. So if that revenue line continues to drop, then we may find ourselves in a position where we're in negative cash flow.
And where does
With no reserve.
And where does that come from to pay the bills? We've never had to deal with that, so that's the reason I was just asking you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Is that something that concerns you, or is it something that you say, I know how we can deal with it? And don't sweat it, we'll do the best job we can, but at the end of the year, the city will,
So the answer to both those questions is yes.
okay.
Yes, it concerns me. Yes, I know how to deal with it.
Okay, all right. So I think in that case, the best thing we can do is just give a heads up to what we think the dollar figure is. So at the end of the year, people don't wake up and go, well, I didn't know the golf course was needing funds.
Yeah.
And that's what I was wanting to do, bring it to
Yeah.
y'all's attention now. Let's get the subcommittee, we get the exact numbers with some.
The best,
June is kind of easy month. It's pretty steady, but April and May are, they can be very extreme, especially like last year it was. April, I mean, we're flooded in May. You just don't do that, you know? And
Yeah.
so
And I think it's
those
worth,
are harder to predict, but I can give my best educated guess.
yeah,
and you've got the best guess of anybody.
yeah.
I think so.
Better than any of us.
I hope so. That's, so.
And I can, maybe it's worth noting, I'd like to say, I appreciate how tightly you run that ship, because I know, and you've let us know a few instances, not every course has survived this perfect storm.
No,
A
no.
number of courses within a very short driving distance had to close their doors because they weren't run as efficiently as you've run this course. And when you hit that perfect storm, bad weather, flooding, because they're all dealing with some of that too, coupled with a declining industry in general, you know, that's
Correct.
one of those things that it's up and it's down, it's popular for a decade, and then it cools off for a while.
Yeah.
Golf's been on the decline for a few years, so.
Yep.
Perfect
And-
storm altogether. Dennis has been able to hold it together, keep the place afloat when other courses are having to close their doors, you know, if they couldn't find a public source of money.
The most recent is Coeda. They have the Woods Golf Course over there. They closed their doors.
By the way, some of them are coming Friday.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I would say, would you say that their issue is uncontrollable expenses or declining revenues?
I don't know on,
Okay.
you know, it's without, you know, seeing how they operate that place, it's too hard to tell. Cause in the golf course industry, I can tell you, your expenses can get out of control in a hurry. You know, when you start having too much labor, and we're on the opposite end of
Yeah.
that. We have very minimal labor, but I know golf courses that do, and I see like, wow, I can't believe how many people you have working here, you know? And but I'm calculating them numbers. I understand what that's doing to their budgets, but it's just too hard to tell, you know, how the place is managed without seeing their numbers. But, so I don't know, I'll get with maybe Bill Kennegeezer and get the subcommittee, have a meeting, see what we can get together and move forward.
make a game plan on that, yeah.
The good news, again, is, you know, the city has stepped up, got me some new equipment, I've gotten some of it in. You know, I've got my new sprayer, which, it's just, as soon as it dries up, I'm ready to start spraying. I can't wait to get on that thing. It's really nice. It's gonna make my job more, actually more safer. You know, and that's our number one concern when you're putting chemicals and pesticides out, is to be safe, but it's also gonna be more efficient. So, that's gonna help too, and we're gonna get a better quality product down, so. We've got our new greens mower, and we've mowed one time with it this last week, so, it's gonna be great. We've got a new blower in, and the blower is important to have in right now, cause before I spray, we have to clean off all the leaves, and you don't wanna spray on leaves, so it's gonna really make that process a lot faster. Kinda one of the things I didn't see coming when I got the new sprayer was we have two maintenance buildings down there. One's real old and one's kinda old. It would not fit into our newest maintenance building. So, the booms are just too tall, the doors are too short, and so it won't fit in there.
You try your best to think of everything, just when you think you thought of everything, you
Yes.
get something like that.
Yeah, so anyway, we're gonna have to park it in the oldest building and keep a tarp over it until I've had a guy come out in our cart building. You know, if we are able to build a new maintenance building, we're gonna use our cart building to store our equipment in. And so it's about $600 to put a new door in there, because it won't go in that door either. But it's easy to adjust the header on the door, put a new 10-foot door in there, and then I can get my equipment in and out. So, that's some of the things that we're looking at, trying to plan ahead far enough to get this maintenance, or cart building, so that we can actually convert it to a maintenance building pretty easily. Already went over the FEMA stuff. We already started burning the piles of debris on the golf course. We started that last Friday. Mike Dunham come out, brought the fire truck out. FEMA wants the fire truck out there when we started burning. So he took his pictures, and we set them on fire. Had some pretty good fires, so. But it's good to see those piles start going away. Unfortunately, the rain slowed us down again on that, because it takes a while to burn those big piles. There's one gentleman I'd like to recognize. His name's Darrell Watkins. He's just a tremendous member out at the golf course. He has helped us with several different projects. One of them being is the restrooms on hole 15. We had a water line leak there. It was underneath the foundation. He got out there with one of my guys, helped them pull out the old pipe. We got the new pipe in. And in doing so, they tore out the vanity of the ladies' restroom, and he built a brand new one. You know, he's a heck of a carpenter, and so he built a brand new vanity. So as soon as we finish up the plumbing, it'll look better than it did in a long time. So, but he's just doing it out of good of his heart. And it's just, that's the part of my job that, you know, I really enjoy, is when you get to work with people like that, you know, come out and spend their time, money, labor to help us make what we're trying to make out there.
Is he a member, just a member, or
Yeah, he
just
just
play?
plays golf, and he does, I know he does a lot of stuff at the Baptist church here in town. I seen him out there working on the sign after he got done playing golf one day. I come up here to the city clerk's office, and he's out there, I seen him working on the sign. As soon as he got done playing golf, he's out there doing stuff for the church. He just does a lot of things, and he's talented. But, I mean, he just does things out of the goodness of his heart. So it's just great to have people like that helping us, all of us, try to do what we can do for that golf course. So I just want to recognize him, you know, because you people don't know a lot of things that go on out there unless I tell you. So,
Appreciate that. Maybe in the subcommittee meeting, we can discuss if there's any ways to express some gratitude.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because he's not the only one. We have other people that help too, you know. He's just has done over-the-top stuff lately. So, back to my maintenance, I'm fixing to start spraying the golf course as soon as the weather will allow me to spray it. Then we'll top dress our greens. So March is gonna be busy. April's really busy with a lot of, tournaments. We're hosting, the Pryor High School Girls Conference. I think that's April 2nd. It's really early. I'll have by the next meeting, I'll have a list of all the tournaments for y'all to see. But we've got, you know, the junior high has their tournament out there, high school girls has a tournament, high school boys has a 36-hole tournament, and then we'll have the high school girls regionals, I think. So, you know, it's just, the facility gets used for a lot of these kids, and I think that's important. So that's all I have on my report right now. I do have some other things, I guess, further down the agenda. But any questions on anything?
You can probably stay there for a few minutes.
Yep.
Let's go to agenda item number 7, action items, FEMA claims, lighting protocol, recycling stations, and others.
I kind of went over the FEMA stuff already, so, I mean, just like, we don't know what we're gonna get till we get further down the road with that, but,
What do we think we know from FEMA, that they are going to reimburse us? Do we feel like we've got a commitment from them to,
I don't know if you'd say commitment, but from, you know, talking to Johnny and stuff, and I don't know if the mayor has.
Every indication is that, yes, we're gonna be reimbursed.
okay?
Commitment is unobtainable is basically the
Yeah.
general gist I'm getting. You hope for the best. They're giving you a lot of assurances, but there's no guarantee.
And that's 75%, and we have spent, hard money, we've spent $118,000. And then there's a lot of labor that's tacked onto that, a lot of equipment use that's tacked onto that. So 75% of the 118, if they give us everything that we've been asking for, so that would be pretty good. So hopefully we might even, like I said, you know, every time we use the backhoe on all that work, you know, we keep track of those hours and we turn that in, and the man running it, and my time out there supervising, all that gets turned in, so. But
For the best.
I think it's gonna come and really help us, but like I said, we don't know when and how much, so. The lightning, I know Pat Richard, while I was down there, I went to the PGA show and then the golf course industry show in Orlando at the end of January, and got a lot of good information there. But on the lightning, I went by several booths. That stuff's not cheap. It's very expensive to have a lightning sensor, and then the siren. The lightning sensors aren't too bad, but the sirens that they communicate with to set them off when lightning is near is very expensive. But I have information on that. I don't know if y'all want me to give that to Pat, because she was the one that's doing that, or I can give it to y'all. But it was like, just a quote, you know, and there's several companies, but this is the least expensive company. Was I know it was the sensor is $5,000. The siren was like $18,000. So I talked to Mike Dunham on that. He said there may be possibly some grant money with the emergency management. They may be able to he's gonna check into that for us to see if that's a possibility, so, and there's several companies, I have their contacts to call if we get down to needing quotes. I didn't go any further than that till I know we can,
Just as a brainstorming a little bit as a thought, I'm thinking back to how our school superintendent handled tornado shelters for the children. You know, there were FEMA standards. He said, well, our main goal is to keep our children safe in a tornado for that 1 hour, 30 minutes, whatever. He looked at everything. He said, we could have built them to FEMA standards, but the cost would have been so astronomical. We sat down with some architects and engineers and said, how do we make sure they're safe, whether they meet FEMA standards or not?
right,
So in the same mindset of, if the lightning protocol is to make sure our golfers are safe, if there's a storm rolling in they're unaware of, because they're all swinging little lightning rods. 18 grand sounds like a lot for a siren and 5 grand for a sensor. Is there another option that maybe is not gonna qualify for FEMA, but puts 3 intercoms out there? In 4 or 5 intercoms, where one person can get on one microphone and say, we're closing the course down, there's lightning, please return to the clubhouse immediately. It maybe looks more like 2,000.
right.
But it keeps our golfers safe, you know?
Right, absolutely, yeah.
I don't know if that's an
kinda
option that we can
thinking
look
out of the
into.
box.
Yeah.
That's a good deal, so there
'Cause
might be.
I get that sirens are expensive, but
Mhm.
18 grand, we just need to let how many acres know it's time to return to the clubhouse. You
Yeah.
know, there's a storm rolling and you didn't know about, or whatever.
And for our land, I think the guy said, I told him how big the land, the property was, he said you might need up to 3 sirens,
That's-
you know, cause it's 140
intercoms,
acres.
though, like, you get on the microphone.
Depends on how
speaking
big
to
they
a
are.
loud
That's
intercom.
what I mean, he quoted here.
I'm thinking something I saw on Andy Griffith. You know, they put those sirens in the back of the truck when they're out there running for office, and you could drive around that course in a couple of minutes, probably with the
And in all
speaker on the
fairness,
back.
I mean this in the most tactful way possible, but you could sound all the sirens you want, and until some people hear the words, there's lightning, return to the clubhouse, we're gonna ignore those sirens.
Oh, I
We're in
had,
Oklahoma where people hear sirens and run out and look around.
they were blowing the
So
tornado
this-
siren.
I need to understand that this is a commandment from management.
Yeah,
We are instructing you, we're not just giving you a heads up, maybe it's
Right.
not safe. We're instructing you, get your butt back to the clubhouse right now.
So, yeah,
So
there's-
that's why I was thinking intercom as opposed to siren, something like that.
I'd say we probably have enough heads up, don't we, that if, and we talked about that, if we couldn't just drive around to the cart pass and cover the course in a matter of 5 minutes and,
it depends on, you know, who is there.
yeah.
If I'm gone, playing in a tournament myself, or my day off or whatever, I'm gone, then, you know,
Somebody has to come out of the clubhouse.
yeah, somebody's gonna have to lock
An
the doors of the
employee.
clubhouse, go out there and know what to do, so,
Cause you're already running that place on a skeleton crew, we know.
yeah. So I
Trying to
mean, you
keep
know,
labor costs under control, like,
figuring out a plan that's gonna be, if we're gonna tell them we're gonna keep them safe, we have to have a plan that's gonna keep them safe, no matter if I'm there or who's there.
Mr. Mullen had an idea that perhaps course that is shut down, perhaps they'd like to surplus something out of it.
things.
it's good thinking.
Yeah, that's,
Somebody might have an intercom system out there we can borrow.
or
Permanently
or a
take off
system,
their
they may have a
hands.
system you can buy.
Yeah. I just have played with enough people, and I remember being young and ignorant, and there's enough people that are gonna hear that siren and say, I'm playing anyway, I don't care. But if they hear somebody that doesn't give them an option, you know, says return to the clubhouse immediately, they're a little more likely to, okay, we'll drive back.
You know, when you get carts, they have, the systems are coming down on the carts, where on the golf carts, you can send out those warnings
Oh,
to them on the golf cart. You
It
know,
has a
like-
little speaker mounted,
Yeah.
it's all
It-
wireless. Yeah.
Exactly, so those are some neat systems that do help that too. So,
Most of them have a cell phone, it's also, give them an alarm.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. Mine, watch said something on mine, and when that alarm goes off, I'm in your phone,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it's
mine
coming out
does
of your
too.
pocket.
It lets me know
Right.
when there's lightning, but
the new apps for the phones, if you got a phone, a smartphone, the apps really works. I use mine all the time. So I really don't know, I mean, we can keep researching some things on that.
I'd say give it to Pat, and that's access to the golf course subcommittee, and they're gonna be the ones
Okay,
working it through them.
perfect. And then she also had on the recycling stations, I found some there at the trade show, and of course, they're nice, they look very nice, but they're very expensive. It's crazy, you know, recycling bins, $2,400. You know, so I've got, I've got that.
You think Mr. Watkins could shoot a surprise?
Yeah, he probably, I've thought about that already, you know, but there's a whole book full of, a whole bunch of different ones, and, you know, surely somebody can look at that and make those, and,
Anybody at the junior high and high school woodworking class that needs
yeah, exactly,
project,
yeah, right, so,
that would help the city, and we put their name, put a plaque on it. If we
right,
the local VOTEC carpentry.
so the
program.
VOTEC exactly could,
I think one of the things we've talked about, though, it's probably not, the real expense is gonna be getting somebody that goes out there and empties them
right,
and hauls the stuff off and,
yeah, how do you manage all
yeah.
the waste?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then others, I'm not sure what we have on others, if y'all have anything.
Agenda item number 8, discuss possibly recommend council action regarding purchase of rough mower for Prior Creek Golf Course from bids received. P&K, a new John Deere 12-foot, is that correct, at $23,000 after 500 trade-in. A demo John Deere 12-foot at $21,000 after 500 trade-in. PTP Toro 12-foot at $26,907 after $1,000 trade-in. GLK Trimax 10.5 at $34,190 plus $1,500 shipping charge, and Trimax 13 at $35,330 plus $1,500 shipping charge.
So, and I don't know, Bill handed me the GLK, Trimax bids last time, so I'll hold them to the next meeting. So, the GLK, and I noticed when I was reading the deal, valid till 1/31/2019, the quote was, so that's quite a while back, but I called them to make sure, they said, yeah, it's no problem, quote's still good, so, there's the two quotes on there, two mowers, and I don't know why I had them, but, one of the good things, about going down to the golf course industry show, was I got to spend time with the reps and the technical reps at each mower. And there's basically the three mowers. You got the Progressive, you've got the Trimax, and then you've got the Toro. And I can tell you without a doubt, the Trimax is superior to all of them. You know, all the different parts is built better. You know, like the guy says, you know, if you don't, if you want cheap, you can get cheap, but cheap is not good a lot of times. And,
Cheap doesn't always hold value.
and good's not cheap.
Right, when we
You know, so-
talked about this a couple months ago, I remember the Trimax caught us all a little off guard, but we actually kind of tabled it because you were doing more research, because it appeared that there may very well be justification for the extra money. As best I recall, part of the reason was serviceability and cost of maintenance and upkeep, because the other ones required blade replacements so frequently at X number of dollars that you'd spent the extra money within a few years already.
Yeah, it would take long to recoup the money on just the blades and
Yeah,
belt.
it seems like it was actually gonna be cheaper in the long run
Right.
with the more expensive unit.
So this is my financial keeping, so it's, but I wanted to give this to you. This is everything that we've went through so far. I plugged in the mower I thought would be the best on the rough mower for the city, and that was I left the book on my desk, the
Trimax,
book
yeah.
that-
Snake 400.
Yeah,
It was a-
Snake 400.
It was just a different engineering design
Yes,
completely.
it's completely, it's just amazing. Some of the other companies are already trying to start copying it. Even Progressive has copied it since we've talked to y'all, so they had a copy of it, still wasn't as good. But, my recommendation is, the Snake 400. If we get that, that's $35,330, and then at the very bottom, I had to put in shipping for that, because that's not on there. It was $1,500 for shipping for that mower. So that runs us $1,100 and $1,120 over our budget. But what that doesn't include is when we sell our Progressive, because they won't trade that in, but it allows us to sell our Progressive. How much we get for it, I don't know. I mean, it's worth, you know, what I think it's worth sometimes may not be what it brings on the market. But you can see in those other bids, what they were giving us for trade-ins on our Progressive was $1,000, and I'm not sure, I don't.
500 and 1,000.
Yeah, so that's what they were giving us, so surely you think that we could get 500 out of it, and, but, from everything I've seen, without a doubt, that 13-foot, 400 mower would be the best for our use out there in Manpower.
Give us your elevator, 30-second elevator speech on, if somebody asks,
Mhm.
why are we going in this route versus the other route? What I'm hearing you say is you're talking about total cost of ownership.
Correct.
Not just what it costs to buy it, but what it costs to operate it and maintain it. So the total, over the life cycle of the asset, you feel like, is it true that you feel like the cost of owning and operating this would be less than one of these other mowers, given the function?
Yeah, number one, for sure, the cost of ownership over the lifetime, and our history is to keep mowers for a long time.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it definitely, you know, I don't see the golf course even wanting to or being in a position in 6 years trade this off for a new one. That probably won't happen.
We tend to keep them 10 to 15 years.
Yeah,
Until we just
really.
can't fix them anymore.
Right, and the way this mower is made, it's so heavy duty, they're the leaders in the industry on making this type of mower. It gives us the cut that we need, whether we're mowing, it will mow down to 3/8 of an inch, which is very, very short, and do a high quality cut, or up to 2 or 3 inches, however high you wanna mow the grass. So the quality of cut is what we need. Cost of ownership is, I think, will pay for itself. Not only with the blades that you have to buy, but the labor on maintaining it is a lot less. So when you look at those mowers all side by sides, the spindles are huge on this Trimex, and they're small spindles on the others comparably. So, and that's the part that the blade attaches to and spins. That's the workhorse of the mower. So those are going to last a lot longer. The bearings, the way it's designed, the others, even the lookalikes, aren't designed with the high lift in the deck to get the grass up and disperse it evenly so it doesn't windrow. Windrowing on a golf course looks pretty bad. These decks, they're the only ones that designed that high. The deck has the depth, the tallness to it, and that's what that function is. Everybody else has a lower deck, they cut costs, but it will windrow, so.
So what I'm hearing you say are, you anticipate lower break fix. You don't, so mean time between failure of this components versus another mower or components would be higher. It's gonna
Correct.
go longer without breaking, so you're gonna get more utilization out of it.
Correct.
Not spend as much time. You said there's an aesthetic value in the way that it mows. It can mow low, it can mow high, it doesn't windrow. So the course is gonna look better
Right.
mowing with it than it would with another type of mower.
And it also has a 0 turn radius. You can set a tree there and just go right around the tree like you do with a 0 turn mower. Who would ever think take a 13-foot mower and go right around a tree? You
So
know?
you're saying the time required to mow the same size acreage is gonna be reduced with this type of mower than
Yes.
the other types of mower? So when I'm talking, to me, those are things that are pretty compelling. If you can just list those when you sit down and ask, because it wouldn't surprise me if somebody says, Dennis, we can buy one for 23,000.
Right.
You're suggesting 34, tell us why.
Yeah.
And those things are all, when you factor them in, people just look at what it costs to buy something.
Absolutely. I'm
When
looking
you-
at the 23,000, I have little spindles that you know are gonna hit stumps and rocks and stuff and get bent, and you have to replace them, and there's goes hundreds of dollars out the window. Well, versus one that's 3 times that size.
Wasn't it that the blades, replacement time to do the blades was a
Yes.
third of
Oh,
what
yeah.
everything else was?
Expense too, wasn't it? If you can
Oh, yeah.
refresh our memory, because it's been a
What,
couple
99
months.
bucks?
$99 to replace the set of blades on that versus $340 for any of the other mowers. I think that was the least expensive. expensive, I found. So it don't take too many times replacing blades, plus they're a lot easier and faster to replace.
And how
Is it
often
just-
do you typically service blades, if you don't mind me asking, if you ballparked it?
We could do that 4 to 5 times a season,
Oh, wow.
yeah, once a
Really?
month.
I would
I
have
mean,
no
we're
idea.
Mowing a lot of grass.
Yeah, I wouldn't
So,
have
I
thought
mean,
they'd be
yeah, it wasn't
replaced that
uncommon.
often.
I probably have bought, for our zero turn, I probably bought 6 sets last summer. We run the heck out of that.
Yeah, these
that's
are
that's
rough
a-
mowers.
Yeah,
You're mowing rough, so you're,
absolutely right.
So that's,
It's not,
just in blades alone, if you figured a 10-year lifespan at $240 savings per blade change, that's $9,600 in savings without any of the other factors.
right, the time it takes to
It
change.
doesn't take into account, it could go 12 years or 15, and it doesn't take into account any of the other issues. But that almost makes it the difference just in the blades.
If you watch how they change, it's super.
Oh, yeah.
There's not much to it. It's impressive mower.
And that was
I can
what,
say as someone who's played a fair amount of golf in his life and has been to the lowest low-end courses and some pretty nice ones, not as nice as the places I'm sure Dennis has played, but I've played some decent ones. The visual impact to the customer of the aesthetic that you take in when you stand on that tee box and you see a very uniformly and manicured looking rough
right,
does hit you. You're kinda like,
quality,
wow.
yeah,
That's when people go, wow, this place is nice.
yeah, quality.
It's not always how nice the carts are, it's not always
Right.
how shiny this or that is. But the fairways usually, for the most part, look pretty similar.
Right,
But you know the difference between seeing a bunch of dandelions everywhere and some weeds, and then a really nice, if you look at Augusta or something as
Oh,
the
yeah.
primo example,
yeah,
the rough looks like some people's fairways, you know?
Yep.
But it's that manicured cut that you're talking about. So it improves the aesthetic appeal of the course as well.
I sold when I started looking at the blades and just the replacement time.
you watch some of the videos.
It was
It's
impressive to me, just to see,
It really
just,
is impressive.
So there is justification for this, it looks like.
And I don't have no problem trying to explain that to council, you know, because I think that's the best deal for the golf course.
What is the warranty?
3 years. 3 years on the progressive, and I think only 1 or 2 on the others. I'm not sure what it is on the, 3 years on the Snake or Trimax mower, and I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2 on the progressive and Toro.
The one you
I don't
rec-
have that paperwork.
Yeah, and of the two bids on the Trimax line that you brought us, one's 10.5 foot, one's 13 foot, you do feel the 13 foot is functional and
it's-
usable out there?
Right,
Okay.
and it fits our needs. We got big wide open spots. We need the width.
I figured there was a reason
That'll add up.
some people would prefer the 10.5.
Right,
I don't know, more tree lined courses or something.
right. That's exactly what it is.
Okay,
I mean,
so-
trees,
so
you know,
ours-
we have some
it'll still
big open
service-
areas.
It'll justify itself, the extra $1,200 it looks like.
Right, that extra foot you're mowing is, it's a 1.5 foot,
Yeah,
you know?
times X
Do
number
that,
of acres, yeah,
8 hours a day, that adds up.
yeah, okay.
that's 10, what is it, 10%? You're getting 10% more
10%
coverage
more.
than you are on
Right.
a,
Yeah. So we got roughly $10,000 savings in blade changes alone.
right off the bat.
That's just based on a 10-year lifespan, which is conservative by our historical needs.
any other thoughts or questions or concerns for Dennis on this?
Now, I'm comfortable making a motion to recommend to council to let him buy that, if we need to go that route. Will you go to council for that?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Dennis, if you need me to sit down with you to lay that out.
Okay.
And the numbers, I'll be
Right.
happy to help you lay out any of those numbers for you.
I appreciate that, and hopefully we get this through council. I really want everybody to come out and see this more. It is amazing.
Okay.
You know, when you get to really see it in action. So even if we have to bring it up to the soccer fields and make some laps around.
Anytime they
I'll
want
tell you, I can knock in the soccer
We'll
field
make
in
it-
a hurry. Or the park department, you know, the park department, I can take it to a ball field, you know, it's amazing. I really would be surprised if the city doesn't purchase one further down the road for the other mowing areas.
Gotcha.
As somebody that spends a lot of time in the rut, I can tell you this is appealing to think that you can cut that.
3/8 of an inch.
3/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
That means I can find my ball a lot quicker. And odds are I can get it out of there.
The reason why we never set it that low is if our fairway mower broke and we wanted to mow our fairways. And there's some golf courses in Arkansas that actually are mowing their fairways with that mower
Really?
because of the time. It's not a high quality cut for a fairway, because that's a real mower versus a blade, a centrifugal blade mower, but it's still very good. I was surprised when I seen how well it mowed.
Wow.
Agenda item number 9, discuss and possibly recommend council action regarding purchase of bent grass sod for the number 8 green. The golf course at $11,100 plus $6,000 freight cost. Reimbursement from FEMA is possible.
So we don't know what FEMA's gonna do on this. All I can say is that, it's something the golf course needs to have happen. When you're dealing with bent grass, March is the ideal time, April, mid-April, if we're gonna take grass, resurface a green. You can do it in the hot months. It's not very, easy to do. It's
not
more of a
advisable.
gamble.
It's not advisable.
Right. Now, some of the things that we have, when you're dealing with bent grass, I've talked around to a lot of people. The golf course over in the Illinois River, Flint Ridge Golf Course, Deer Valley, I talked to him. He said last March, he tried to go buy some bent grass, and he didn't start till March, and there was none available. So the supply is not there. I don't know how it'll be this year, but last year it was not there.
So you're trying to stay out in front of it.
So you're right, trying to stay out in front of it. I think we probably have to recommend this to the budget committee first before it went to council, or I don't know if we need, where the action needs to go.
Remember,
You don't have to, you don't.
I remember last year, council went over a lot of this stuff and approved a lot of it.
Yeah.
I was thinking resodding of the green was part of that.
was
Is that
part-
correct?
was part of
No,
it.
they couldn't approve the complete rebuild, but they approved resodding. as best
Okay.
I recall.
Maybe they did, yeah.
Is that, am I correct?
That is correct,
Okay.
that is correct. FEMA would not reimburse if we moved that.
Right, right.
But FEMA, the consideration of FEMA is positive if we rebuild the green where it's.
Right,
yeah. And I'm guessing it's been long enough now, you know whether or not that green's coming back on.
It's not coming
Is that
back.
coming
It
back?
never did.
I
So we
remember
tried
seeing it,
several
it
things.
was a mess, I remember, so.
So,
My understanding, this has really kind of been approved, but we're dotting our i's and crossing our t's to say, pull the trigger and make it happen now.
That's correct.
Okay,
I make the motion, then we, city to send it.
I'll second
Council.
it.
Motion made, and there's a second. Discussion, a couple of questions, Dennis, on this, it looks like at about 17,000, time you throw in freight.
right.
Is there any chance some of these courses that are shutting down or shut down would have a sod farm or greens that they would allow us to go in and
I've
take it?
contacted one of them, and they would not do that because the owner and all that didn't want people coming in there cutting the grass off,
Sure.
even though they were closed down. And then the other one, I have not contacted the Woods, and that would, I don't know the quality of their grass, it may be just fine. Fortunately, last time we went and got grass, it was from Southern Hills, which is a high quality, the highest
Yeah.
in the state. So I've never been to the Woods Golf Course. It's right there in Coweta. It's one of the few I've never been to, but it's a very low-scaled golf course.
So you say there's some risk to doing that?
Yeah, and I'd have to see it first.
Well, and if it's,
But that's,
if they're
there's a
closing.
possibility. I sure wouldn't mind taking a trip over to Coweta and looking at it. And I think one of the people that owned it, I thought, was Tommy Thompson, or he was involved in it. Somebody told me, that's just hearsay. Which is from Locust, he's
Mhm.
around this area anyway.
But
so-
the doors are already closed on it, is that right?
Yes,
Which
they
means
just
it's not-
closed.
Which means they're not out there mowing it, so it's.
Yeah, well,
If it's overgrown, it's useless at that point.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It has to be kept mowed short to keep the infill, keep it grow, so
Yeah.
once it's
I don't know.
let go, there's no harvesting to be done there.
Right, I don't know what condition it is in, but right, yeah.
But
it
yeah,
could
if it's
be.
still open and being mowed, then.
Right. So, this sod here is quality sod. I mean,
Where's
it's
this one from?
California. You got California, you got the East Coast, West Coast, or the very northern borders.
Still cracks me
That's the
up.
only
I remember
place
you
you can
talking
find
about
it.
that. You can get it out of like North Carolina, California, or
Yep.
somewhere near Canada. It's the only
Yep,
three sources you
exactly.
got.
So,
Okay. Any other questions? Could we have got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda item number 10 is discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding items for surplus at Prior Creek Golf Course. Dennis, can we just go through all of these without it going through them individually, just collectively?
yes.
Unless somebody's got some questions. A progressive ProFlex mower, purchased in 2008. This one caught my Canon 3570 printer. That must be one heck of a printer.
It's a big one that Mayor Trammell brought out to the golf course one day and said, here's your printer. And we didn't utilize it enough to really need it out there, so I don't know if, I don't guess they need it up here because that's where it came from, but, unless another department might need a nice printer, Mayor.
Is it still operational?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's just it's a big old tank, but, it's like, you know, it's bigger than the one I use in here all the time, but I don't need to print hundreds of copies.
It's designed for
used
high
to
volume places, yeah.
print
Need to
more,
print
but now
hundreds
we
of
don't.
hundreds, yeah.
It's a nice printer, works, everything.
Yeah.
So,
It may have,
The maintenance folks might be standing in line wanting to do a deal on maintenance on it, but
yeah, right.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, my understanding on printers is if you spend more up front, you save money on the long run in terms of ink and things like that. And then it has the capacity to spit out a whole lot fast.
Yeah, that one does. It's a nice printer. I just have no use for it out there. It just sits in the way and doesn't get used.
Okay.
okay.
I
So
thought-
it's not that it doesn't work. It's just you don't use it.
Right.
You said Mayor Trammell brought it to you?
Yes.
We want to make sure it wasn't hot or anything. Scratch it.
Yeah. Check the inventory item, make sure the sticker.
Yeah, that is,
It's a nice printer.
yeah, that blew me away thinking we had a heavy-duty printer like that. That's like a large company would use.
It is.
C is a 1973 Chevy cab and chassis, purchased in 1973. A Ransom Fairway mower, 1991. God, I remember buying that thing. It was 91. That was the hottest thing since sliced bread when we bought it.
It was nice.
It was nice. 1991 Dodge pickup. 1988 International Street Sweeper, that's what everybody needs. National mower, and a Jacobson turf cap with deck, 1998.
Gosh, some of these things are over 20 years old.
Yeah,
Some of them probably won't even bring any money. Will have to be hauled just to the dump or however we dispose of it if it doesn't. Scrap, yeah. Some of them might bring some decent money. The progressive, now keep in mind, I mean, I put that on there because I wasn't sure which way we'd go with the rough mower, but that's the one that could bring enough money to offset some of what we've overspent, the 1,100 we've
1,000,
overspent. So.
1,500, something like that.
But that would be, you know, that would have been a trade-in to some other company, but, so. But I
Well-
don't anticipate getting much money out of none of that stuff. Other than that printer, I don't know, that printer's nice. I don't know who needs one,
It's
but,
got my attention.
huh?
It's got my attention.
Yeah, you need to come out, I'll show it to you, it's nice. It's nice.
yeah. And I would think that there's probably a difference in the way you describe these. A 1973 Chevy cab and chassis versus a 1991 Dodge pickup. I'm guessing the cab chassis that's what it is.
That is a dump truck,
Oh, is it?
yes.
I think I'd put dump truck on there, because that is something that people
Sounds
might,
a little better.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a dump truck.
Has a little-
Which of these are operational?
The progressive.
Which of these could you use as an everyday driver?
And none of them. A and B And that is it.
Why is
The
it-
rest of them, you
The
better
street
bring a tow
sweeper?
truck out.
Yes.
We can't use the street sweeper?
You take a little work, but you could use it.
So a reminder about the surplus, if I might, remind about the surplus is we're compelled to do whatever is in the best interest of the citizens in that regard, so, so.
Wait.
If we're wanting to declare, these items surplus, then we'll send that to council and ask for their approvals to make them surplus. And then we will go through the process of trying to determine, then what's in the best interest of the citizens with all that equipment.
And do we have a regularly scheduled surplus auction?
No,
We-
we do as needed.
Okay.
Is it possible am I breaking any rules by saying I would like to make a motion, we approve that pending council approval of the purchase of a mower to replace item A? Because if you don't get approval on that, you can't surplus that, you need that.
Exactly, right. So we have to, we can't get rid of that mower and then not have a mower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I okay
So
to say that?
how did you say that?
I was gonna make a motion to approve all these items being listed for surplus, contingent upon council approval of
Buying the rough mower.
the mower in item 8, because if we don't get that approval, then he can't get rid of item A here.
Right.
He needs that mower.
I would second that verbiage.
Is that okay? Mayor, Chris, or Darla, can I say it that way? Okay.
Yeah, I think we just pull it from the surplus list, like you're,
Right.
If you have any kind of hiccups at council meeting, then we'll yank that one back out.
okay. Have we had a motion?
I made a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? Darla, you got
Yes,
additional language?
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 11, unforeseeable business. Petitions from the audience?
Chris, I've got something on the surplus.
Yes.
Just as the last 2 weeks, the county has decided to go Purple Wave. And it's an internet sale. They put it in like a 2-week time frame. They come to your place, take a picture of the equipment, put it up on the website. The buyer comes to your place and gets the equipment. You don't deliver it. And I think there's no charge. Because the buyer pays the upfront cost of Purple Wave. So that's the way the county's decided to go. They haven't sold anything on Purple Wave yet. They just decided the last 2 weeks to put a couple of tractors and, dump truck or whatever.
We have a site that we work through, just like what you said, we just list it.
Yeah, I just heard about it.
They're out of Wausau.
It's another option to open up.
So Bid, I think is the name of it. You just list it and they just tell you what it's gonna bring you. They guarantee your pricing.
Well, it sounds like that would get you a wider audience.
Yeah, and even something like a street sweeper that
Yeah,
maybe we think nobody wants it, but
Somebody will want it.
somebody in Illinois might want it.
I tell you, if it'd sweep up sweet gum balls, I'd buy it tonight.
I did have one other thing, just wanted to quickly mention, Bill Kennegizer and I have been working on, talking to the county commissioners about maybe being able to do some things with the golf course, to help us, and so I had some conversation with one of them, he said, yeah, there's some things they may be able to do to help us, in particular with maybe some cart paths or bridges and that kind of stuff, so we have a meeting set up Wednesday with the mayor and county commissioners, to see if there's some ways that they can help us.
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And thanks, Terry. Well, I guess mayor's got that information. That'd be where that would be the,
I got one more thing to tell you.
sure.
Along those lines, how about Mid-American Industrial Park doing something to help out the golf course financially? You talk about an entity that really can benefit from having it here, maybe even more so than our populace.
It's a
I know
recruitment,
Years ago, we
it's a
talked
recruitment tool for him.
plant managers, but I don't think they ever came
They're
through
not
with
as
anything.
active as they used to be.
The plant managers thing?
Do they not do that plant managers meeting anymore?
Yes, they still do.
Are they?
But I haven't seen them or given any, or they don't publicize it.
Hmm.
But they
Is-
used to regularly do. They would help the prior fire department with equipment too.
Well, I noticed,
Two angles to go there, one being plant managers and one being the park itself, which are two different buckets of money.
well, I've noticed that they're putting a lot in the, was it the district, they're really hyping that at this point.
And then those people would maybe go for a lot.
Yeah. And I know Dave Stewart's mentioned it being, as, it helps him in recruiting, because he's trying to bring companies in all the time, so he can take the powers that be that write the checks that decide where the next factory's gonna be. It helps to have a nice golf course to take them to.
Well, I think the selling point is, one of the selling points always been the quality of life.
Yeah.
You know, that's what businesses look for when they come to town, is what are the people gonna do if they move here? And golf being one of them, and
And
of course,
we're in a community very limited on recreational activities and options, so
And their hands are not tied. I mean, they've got
got a lot more
ambulance
flexibility.
station, they've got airport, college campus, emergency care.
And when they decide to do something, they pull the trigger and make it happen.
Well, I
There's
noticed,
no entity that tells them you can't do this.
Yeah.
I noticed in their verbiage in their webpage, quality of life is one of the things they talk about that they have in the city and what some of the stuff is. Huh?
Industrial park.
Yeah. Is,
Stewart is, he's pretty hell bent on having some good things for people to do around here.
Yeah, 'cause they're having trouble recruiting people.
Yeah, he is.
is there there's no advertisement yet that can be done out there for that. What they say in June is when they expect to have some of that stuff open in the district.
You're talking about, phase number one,
Mhm.
working on right now?
Mhm.
Yeah, we've got target in June. May not happen, but that's target.
So they got a lot to do. They're gonna get it done by June.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. No, I think that's a good point, Terry. It's something that, in the past, it's kind of been, but things have definitely changed in a way that, between Gene Redden and Sanders Mitchell, and now it's a little broader scope, it seems like, so
Different,
Now,
it's something we ought to,
A lot about amenities.
a little
Yeah.
different philosophy, a little different perspective.
Maybe with the restaurant, I think.
any other unforeseen business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?